What's up, TikTok? How we doing? What is going on? Everyone, how are we? Let's get after it. A little late night sesh. Very important. Let's get it. What's up, TikTok? Let's go. What's going on? I think I have a pretty important message to share here, so let's get after it. What is the good word, everyone? Hello, tip of the cap. The world is continuing to remain on fire. Donnie lives rent-free in everybody's head. All anybody can seem to think about is the very bad, very orange man. We're getting gaslit directly to our face hole. We're getting a mainstream flow of gaslighting directly in our ojos at an alarming pace, Jim. And everything continues and remains to be actual garbage. Everybody is simultaneously gripping their ankles for dear life while literally preparing their balloon knot for a torpedo of authoritarian, spiky pain. They're ready to get pegged by the establishment for the 8,000th time in the last 2 years. So that's great. Thanks for being here. The world is stupid. Everyone's dumb. Everybody wants to elect Fetterbean. The media is garbage and everything is stupid. I am currently wearing my Donnie lives rent-free in your head shirt. It also says very bad, very orange, Russia, bad orange man, capital erection, rhetoric. It says popular vote, and it says impeach because everything's dumb. And I wanted to wear this shirt specifically because I find it quite hilarious and also deep, dark, sad, and full of soy that so many people can't seem to see past the greater picture of what is occurring right now. So thank you for tuning in on this extra special late night live. And I want to share with you what I believe the midterms mean and how I'm approaching it. I've been asked a lot of questions today. A lot of people have been trying to reach underneath my grundle and tickle the back of my bag and try to get me to say something crazy. They're like, you're an ableist, Fetterbean. He had a stroke. He is relatable. He lives in a steel mill. He lives underneath a steel mill. Yo, you need to vote for him. It's like, this person's not currently residing on the crust here, guys. I don't know where you people are, but very sad, very soy and sadness, and Zanzibars, and literally big pharma Zanzels just floating through your bloodstream. Literally, whom hurt you? Your dad loves you. What's wrong with you, fam? I'm just saying, literally, whom hurt you? It's not anxiety. You just need some sunlight. Stop eating seed oils and go for a walk. Stop solving all of your literal problemas by watching demons on the intersnerd, by following Twitter accounts and getting sad on TikTok. Maybe go outside, pet a dog, perhaps. Let's all I have anxiety. Yeah, okay, anxiety's real. I get it. But not in every situation. You know what I'm saying? Don't at me, don't care, don't chirp me, don't care. It's just like, if you ever watch TV for more than 4.5 seconds, they're just like, are you hungry? Eat this big pharmaceutical pill from GlaxoSmithKline. Are you thirsty? Have this pharmaceutical pill from Pfizer. Did you sleep more than 4 hours? You should eat this pill. It's just like, okay. And then they're just like, beep, 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 into Walmart, and they're just like, seed oil and processed flours. They're like, meat is bad, it has fats, eat the crickets, eat the mealworm. And then everyone's like, why am I sick? And then Pfizer's like, come over here and get yourself a whole heaping handful of pills. Cholesterol. Eggs are bad. Eggs are good. Anybody ever watch the nightly news when they were a kid and they're like, tonight at 8, eggs are poison. And then a week later, they're like, tonight at 8, eggs actually good for you. And then a week later, they're just like, tonight at 8, cholesterol in it, the secret cholesterol in eggs that's killing you. And it's just like, pick a message, jabroni. And meanwhile, like the sponsors at PepsiCo are just like, eat Lay's instead. It's just like, okay. Then they're like, you're fat, buy this pill. And now they're like, you're too skinny, be fat. Fat is cool, fat is health. It's just like, and people are just like, what do I think for yourself? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? It's like, has anybody ever thought to just think for themselves? Maybe do things that make them feel good. Maybe talk to people that appear healthy, are healthy. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. People are just like, I need a cricket to save the earth. Whom hurt you, literally whom hurt you? All right, before I get started, everything's dumb. Big thanks to everybody that is subscribed on Instagram. I really appreciate that. Instagram opened me up for subscriber, whatever giblets. It's basically like a Patreon inside Instagram, and a couple of people have subscribed in there. We got a little group chat going, and I'm going to do the best I can to provide as much value to the people that are in that group. So I very much appreciate that. To everybody else, thanks. I've seen some people scooping stuff up on bobbysauce.com. I really appreciate that. And of course, thank you in advance to everybody that buys badges in the lives and supports the channel by buying merch or sharing the videos or just being here or supporting on Patreon or making donations or whatever. I really do appreciate it so very much. Okay. I got a lot of questions today. And it's not a bulletproof vest for the 5,000th time. Watch my story on Instagram today. I talk about it as a weighted vest from First Form. It's in my story on Instagram today. Go look at it. Okay. So here's the message. I was asked a lot today. Basically the same question, and I want to clarify what I think the midterms mean and why I think it's important and why I think that everybody pays attention. Because we seem to hear a bunch of we seem to consistently see kind of the same messaging over and over again, which basically consists of the following. You either have people that are completely brainwashed and completely over to the left. Totally. Let's come back to them. But the people that are on the right, the conservative side, whatever you want to call it, the people that are supposed to be independent thinkers, that think for themselves, that love America, love family, love country, etc. Some of the people in this camp, they think that voting doesn't matter. They're like, everything's bought and paid for, World Economic Forum. We might as well just grab some survival food and live in a cave. And it's like, yeah, fine. I'm not going to say that that's not the case, but what I will say is that I do believe that voting does matter, because they wouldn't be investing, the demons, as it were, wouldn't be investing hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to convince people to vote a certain way if it didn't matter. These people, these demons, are not that stupid. They're in fact very smart, and they do a lot of social engineering. They would know. So the fact that hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars in this gigantic machine is put in place to convince people to vote a certain way helps me believe that it does have an influence, because you see how people that they don't approve of, people that are outside of the mainstream narrative of things, people that go against the grain, you see how those people have been able to win. If the voting was completely rigged from the start, no chance ever, there would be no Republicans at all. There would be no people from the right that are in any position of power ever. So if you look and see the fact that they're fighting for these things, that they're doing these debates, if it was just bought and paid for and there was no chance, they wouldn't spend so much money and time and effort to try to convince people to vote a certain type of way. I don't give a shit. You want to at me, you want to tell me that it's not that way and I'm just some controlled op. I don't care. Click X, leave the chat, could care less. Don't listen to me. I don't give a shit. I'm just a person that yells on a microphone because the marketplace said, I like what this person says and how he digests it. Don't care. I'm not any more of a political analyst than the next guy. I just do a lot of research. I give you the best that I absolutely can, and I try to give you the truth as I understand it based on 12 to 15 years years of research and a little bit of life experience. I don't know. I'm not that smart, but I certainly try as hard as I possibly can. So all you have to do is take what I say with a grain of salt, interpret it however you want, do the research yourself, and interpret it however you want. Don't care about your opinion. This is my opinion. That's why it's the stream that you're on right now. I don't know what to tell you. If you don't like it, bounce. Don't care. I think that voting really matters. I do think it matters. I think that 5 to 10% of it, maybe a little bit less, gets lost in the mix. I think that there's a little bit of corruption there. In fact, a lot of corruption, but I do think that you can turn the tide. I do think that the real rot, the real poison of society is in the fact that most people don't care. Most people don't pay attention. Most people don't talk about it. Most people consider it to be something of which they have no influence and they can't do anything about. And I think that reason, like so many other reasons, is the reason that the world is so trash right now, because people are outsourcing their discernment to the experts in the room. People don't think about the food that they eat, me included up until about 8 months ago. People don't think about the food that they eat. They don't think about the exercise that they do. They don't think about the way that they live their life, the information they consume, the things that come out of their mouth and the things that go in their mouth. They just don't think about it. They're outsourcing their discernment to the experts, to the adults in the room. And that's how most people choose to live their life. And as a result of that, the dark people, the darkness, people that are shrouded in darkness, not dark people, but people that are dark on the inside, seek to control and manipulate the people that even slightly pay attention, just enough to make them useful, just enough to garner their vote, to steal their freedom, to steal their power and their work and their money and their resources. So I think that elections actually do matter. Now, another thing, people will be like, how could you support Dr. Oz? How could you support this guy or that guy? Everybody's got a problem. The difference between the left and the right is the following. And there are many differences, but this is my interpretation of what the primary difference is. The people that are on the left are willing to swallow, hook, line, and sinker, big fat meat log directly into their throat hole and swallow whatever their overlords serve them on a platter. They will give them a steaming pile of actual garbage, and they'll be like, eat this and shut your mouth. And that is exactly what they do. They mindlessly regurgitate the establishment line. They fall in lockstep. If you look at how they choose their candidates on the left, they vote 83% for one guy. On the right, it's one person with 50, one person with 43, one person with 41, because a lot of people on the right tend to, more often than not, think through the candidates a little bit, maybe have a little bit of self-preservation, a little bit of freedom, a little bit of mindfulness of history, a little bit of respect for their fellow neighbors, not the respect that they think, get the mysterious poison or get out. The fake virtue that they have, people on the right tend to be a little bit more altruistic, in my opinion. Don't care. It's just my opinion. Don't care. If you're a person that doesn't believe that, could care less. I'm not even going to look at the comments on TikTok because I already know what they are. So, this is what I think is how you play the long game to win at the game of life as it relates to these midterms. We have two factions, both of which are highly corrupt, one seemingly less corrupt than the other. We have these two factions that, for the most part, are willing to sell you out, lie to you, gaslight you directly to your face, absorb power and put themselves over you at any and all circumstances without question. They both have dark and nefarious actors inside them. They both have bad policies from time to time. They both have bad actors, no doubt about it. But the primary difference between these two factions is that one is going 100 miles an hour and the other one is going the speed limit. People on the left, the progressive wing, the leftists, are going 100 miles an hour off a cliff into a flaming pile of trash. The right is going the speed limit, which in my opinion means that we have a little bit more time to potentially veer off the course to hell and potentially to the promised land. I don't love every right-wing candidate. I don't always believe that no matter what, if there's an R in front of their name, that they're altruistic or good or the best out there. But what I can say More often than not, after giving both sides a fair shake, I tend to agree with the right more often than not. I tend to agree with the founding principles of our country. I tend to agree with freedom. I tend to agree with small businesses and entrepreneurship. I tend to agree with less squandering of money. I tend to agree with the idea that the greatest and most important solution to all the world's problems, at least as it relates to America, is smaller government. It's very simple. If I could only give you one message, it would be that we need smaller government. It's very simple. That's it. That's the only message. Because smaller government would, in and of itself, solve the vast majority of the world's problems. Now, when you choose these candidates, both bad, I agree with you. But what I will say is that if you look at the policies that are espoused by people that generally are on the right more often than not, they tend to be smaller government-minded, less wasteful spending, which means more economic prosperity, more of your resources kept to yourself. They're less likely to lock you down. They're less likely to force you to take a pharmaceutical product that you may not want to take. They're more likely to listen to you, and they're more likely to have a much harder battle to get to the mountaintop of influence than a person on the left. A person on the left can mindlessly regurgitate the establishment line, and as long as they will be a useful lemming of the establishment, they'll get chewed up and spit out. They'll get used, elevated, artificially inflated, made into a celebrity, and then chewed up and spit out when no longer useful. You've seen it 1,000 times. They did it to Andrew Cuomo, Chris Cuomo, Don Line, Humpty Dumpty at CNN. Every single one of these people is a useful mouthpiece of the establishment, of the global elite that want one thing and one thing only, which is eternal power over you and your freedom until the end of time. I'm not saying that both factions are not, generally speaking, leading us there, but one is less evil than the other. And if you're out to right the ship, generally speaking, if you believe that there's change to be made and that you could be a participant in that influence over changing the future of the world, you have to agree more often than not that the right tends to be better than the left as it relates to fiscal responsibility, economic prosperity, caring about the people in your nation first, having a border, overdoses, law and order, the police and the military, and businesses. Because I think what most people fail to understand is that economic prosperity is at the peak of a lot of things. There would be a lot less civil unrest if people had more money in their pocket. There would be a lot less civil unrest if people were making money and growing their businesses. There would be a lot less civil unrest. There would be a lot less racial divide. There would be a lot less darkness, sadness, if people were able to prosper. Okay? So it's like, if you can understand that creating an environment where the economy can flourish will solve so many things, let's just start there. What happens when you look at these two factions, which of them is more likely to support and help small businesses prosper? Which of them is putting less egregious rules on small businesses? Making them check IDs at the door, verify this garbage, get fined if they don't follow the dictates of the people that are in power, that are not influenced by it. When you centralize and pick winners and losers, which a larger government does, they have the ability to anoint companies, primarily large corporations, and choose who wins and who loses. The less power that the federal government has, the better the world is. That's just the end of it. It's very simple. So, what does that mean as it relates to the midterms? What I think people need to understand is that the world of yesteryear, the way that they want to sell you every single thing, is they want to say, this can't be done, therefore don't participate. Because the people that are on the other side, the easily emotionally manipulated people, they don't believe that. They believe that their vote will protect their rights because that's how they're sold. They're like, be a useful lemming. We'll pay you a paycheck. We'll pay you out. We'll take care of you. You can be whatever. You could be a hippopotamus if you want. Whatever you want, and we'll pay you. Socialism, good. Free money, good. Big bad evil corporations, big bad evil capitalism. As somebody consumes their Starbucks while holding their iPhone, big bad evil capitalism. They don't think that their vote doesn't matter. They think that they're voting for free stuff. People on the right are taught that their vote doesn't matter. If you live in the state of New York, if you live in the state of California, you've been told for your entire life that your vote means nothing unless you're on the left. And people espouse that to this day. Well, here's a news flash, everybody. The world of yesterday, the world of 10 years ago is not the world of today. Never in a million years did most people think that you could shut down a business. Never in a million years did somebody think we would live in a biomedical security state. Never in a million years did we think that information would travel at this fast of a clip. Never did anybody think that the world could be this way. This is a regressive moment. The stock market's in the tank. The inflation is off the chart. We're in a hot war with a nuclear power. We have a person in office that's the oldest president in history that can barely formulate a sentence, makes a new gaffe every day. We got John Fetterbean, a person that is not capable of having a job, and these mindless NPCs will be like, vote for Fetterblob. And you have people like Barack Obama saying, you got to go vote for John Fetterman. These people have no shame. They have no shame. They don't care because there's only one thing that matters. The only thing that matters is that the federal government maintains a massive grip of control over you and every person that exists in the world, because this is my opinion of how it works. The main investors that run the planet are the large-scale multinational financial institutions. They run the world. They are the progressive left. The large multinational financial institutions, investment houses, hedge funds, the BlackRocks of the world, and the international banking cartel runs the world. That's it. The progressive left wing of the political elite of this planet is run by these people. It is not Joe Biden. It is not Barack Obama. It's not John Podesta. It's not Hillary Clinton. It is them. They own all of the mainstream distribution points of information. They own the television stations. They own the book publishers. They own the movie houses, the movie theaters, the movie production studios, and all the movie investment houses. They own the streaming services. They own the radio. They own the blogging and publishing platforms. They own the podcasting platforms. They have their hands in the social tech platforms. They have their hands in the Pepsi and Coca-Cola of the digital information highway, Apple and Google. They own all of the large, high-value real estate. They own the banks. They own all of the water companies, a la the Nestle's of the world. They own the food, Frito-Lay, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, all these chips, all these candies. Halloween, go get candy, go get your candy. They own all of the food. They own the farmers, and they're trying to squash out the last independent farmers that exist. They own all the farming organizations that get subsidized from the federal government, like big corn, for example. There's corn in everything. They own everything. They own all the world's most valuable real estate. They own a lot of the real estate investment trusts. They own the largest publicly traded corporations in America. They own all of the defense corporations and all the defense contractors that make money off of both sides of every war. They own a lot of the technology and the means of production for some of the most important and essential components of a technologically advanced society. The cell phone companies, AT&T, Verizon. They own Comcast and all of the major internet companies and every means of broadcast out there. They have their hands in all of them. They own slices of the insurance companies, the real estate insurance, as well as the life insurance companies. They buy and pay for all of the top tier corporate heads at all of these institutions. Then they take all these institutions and they buy advertising and share resources and purchase items from themselves, threatening at any moment to cut off one tentacle of the octopus if they don't fall in line with the greater picture, which is top-down centralized control from the 100 men that run the world. Everything that happens around us in the entire world is controlled and dictated from the top down from these people. There are no coincidences. They are the reason that your food is poison. They are the reason that your pharmaceutical products are poison. They buy and pay for all of the heads of politics so that they can escape prosecution. They buy out all the AGs. They buy out all the district attorneys. They own all the top tier lawyers that go back and forth from large scale legal firms to positions of government and then back. They own the FDA. And then they use their instruments, their human instruments, who are willing to sell their soul for money, power, celebrity. They anoint these people, they use them, they pay them off, and they spit them out. And these people with no spine or backbone are willing to sell their soul to the highest bidder. All the stuff that happens around us that any person with just a basic amount of discernment can see right through is by design. The vast majority of things that happen in the world are done intentionally. The reason people in America are lethargic, sick, fat, and tired is because they made you that way. The reason that people think that good food is bad and bad food is good is because they told you that. The food pyramid from the jump has been bad, poison. The public school system is trash, which is why they fight so hard to keep everybody in public schools and out of private schools. Because if private schools and charter schools were allowed to flourish, the free market would be able to compete to educate the future leaders of America, which would make a less subservient and less easy to control society, which is their greatest threat. A well-informed, unified public is the greatest threat to global top-down control. In order for people to be free, they need a couple basic components. The ability to speak freely and criticize their government. The First Amendment. Actively under threat at all times, especially here and here. You certainly can't talk about it on the college campuses. Look what 501c3s like Turning Point do when they go to universities. Look at what happens when Matt Walsh or people from the Daily Wire go to universities. They destroy the university, and then the university apologizes to them, to the mob, to the outrage mob. Why? Because the universities are bought and paid for by these exact same entities through donations and through the endless flow of cash that they invest. And then the fact that the establishment sells people on the dream and the necessity of getting this useless degree from them so that you can become a useful corporate employee every year until you are no longer able and then you die. The reason that education is so expensive is because it gets subsidized by the federal government. It's the reason that college loans are so extreme. It's the reason that the inflation on college, everything is so high, from tuition to books to housing. All of those things would be more than reasonable and more than easy to pay for if the free market was allowed to compete without the intervention of the federal government, point blank. It's been that way for decades and decades and decades until they got their dirty, filthy paws in there and started subsidizing those loans. The youth, primarily my generation, got saddled with insurmountable quantities of debt at an extremely high rate that they didn't even understand because the public school systems didn't teach them how to use money, didn't teach them about their health, didn't teach them about their body, didn't teach them how to question authority, didn't teach them about the real history of the world or how to be a critical thinker. They teach them, us, to be employees. So you come out of public school with no idea how to get a mortgage, save money, invest money, start a business. You know nothing about your body. You know nothing about food. You know nothing about water. You know nothing about investments. You know nothing about entrepreneurship. You know nothing about finance, how to open a bank account. You don't know anything about credit. You don't know anything. You know palindromes. You know basic algebra. And you know how to write in fucking cursive. Congratulations. You don't know how to do the one thing that every American citizen needs, your fucking taxes. How could anybody be so dumb that they could understand that every single person in America files taxes, but in the public school system, financed by this exact same organization, they don't teach you shit about taxes. They don't teach you about money. They don't teach you about food. They don't teach you about your body. They don't teach you how to question authority. They don't teach you how to run a business. They don't teach you how to prosper. They don't teach you shit. They teach you how to be an employee. End of story. Then you have healthcare, which is more than 50% of all healthcare in the United States of America is purchased by Medicaid and Medicare, which means the federal government purchases more than 50% of all healthcare in America. They don't do anything to properly negotiate the prices, and because it's on the federal dime, aka the taxpayer dime, aka your dime, they're able to charge exorbitant prices without any competition. Because of the outrageous red tape that exists for all major businesses, especially in healthcare, where you have to follow all of these crazy protocols, all of these requirements, all of these restrictions, it keeps all of the small mom and pop independent businesses and healthcare providers out of the game, and it keeps the big players that are bought and paid for by the establishment in the game, constantly and perpetually anointed by the big flow of cash that's subsidized from your dollar. Then they use these useless idiots, these mouthpieces, who they give fake celebrity and fake authority by anointing them through the media as tastemakers, the politicians that you should care about. They use all of their firepower to raise the stock of these people so that they can be a mindless mouthpiece of whatever their agenda is at the moment. They give them celebrity, they give them money, they give them temporary influence and fake power until they start to push back, and then they destroy them. The greatest tax and the easiest tax to levy on the American people, and really the people of the world, is through inflation. By telling you that you're not going to raise taxes, a thing that is digestible for most people, especially ones that don't pay attention, especially ones that they intentionally keep in the dark by gaslighting them and lying to them at every corner, emotionally manipulating them to believe one thing or the other, or one side is more virtuous than the other because of some emotional cue, some marginalized group that you're kicking in the face while they're down if you disagree with them. So they just simply print more money, inject it into the economy, and erode the purchasing power of the single thing that most people have worked their entire life to obtain, including their family members, their great-grandparents, and the like. Now, they're using all of these exact same tentacles of their authority to convince the next generation to go out there and mindlessly regurgitate the establishment narrative. And what happens if you do that? What happens if you do that if you're 17 years old and you're a creator on TikTok that pushes the establishment narrative? What happens to you? You get 500,000 followers. You get invited to the White House. You shake Joe Biden's hand, and they purchase your mind. If you fit into a marginalized group that's hot at the moment, I'm a them. I'm a person of color. I'm a Hispanic. I'm an Indian. I'm a this. I'm a that. They do the same thing. They give you the fame. They give you the money. They give you the reach. And then they tell you what to be until you disagree, and then they destroy you. That's what they do. If you dare oppose this narrative, if you dare to be an independent thinker, you get demonetized, suppressed, ostracized from society and your friend groups by design. Ostracized from your family, from your career, from your business, from your honor if you were to serve for the armed services. If you were to be a first responder, a nurse, a doctor, a true hero until you're not a hero, then you're a hero until they don't need you anymore. So what does this mean? How does this all come to a head? I think that, the hands of time turn very slowly, but momentum is the primary driver of large quantities of change. I believe that you have to start taking a few steps before you can start to run, before you can start to roll, before you can start to take off. So how does this relate to now? In New York State, you have a person like Lee Zeldin, for example, who has a stark difference between Kathy Hochul. It's like authoritarian top-down control biomedical nanny state versus I will never force you to get this ever again. Educate your kids how you want. Be in control of your life and your freedom. Get criminals off the streets. Get rid of cashless bail. Let people enforce and protect innocent citizens. Allow you to protect yourself. And as a result, small, medium-sized businesses in the economy will flourish. People will flourish. Property values will increase. Jobs will return. Investments will be made. Cities will improve. Morale will improve. And violence and crime will decrease. Very simple. Get the government out of the way. They mess everything up. In a place like New York State, if there was ever a place to change it, this would be it. Lee Zeldin, from what I've seen, is an articulate, intelligent dude with the right message at the right time. Kathy Hochul is an unelected, top-down authoritarian biomedical nanny state puppet that to this day is telling you to get your mysterious poison and shut up. And if you don't do it, I'd fire you all over again. The decision is clear. So clear, in fact, that the fact that anybody doesn't remember what we just went through for the last 2.5 years is mind-blowing to me. But here's the rub. This is how they emotionally manipulate you. This is why it seems that way. Remember, if the threat to authoritarian control and subservience and perpetuity is free-thinking, independent-minded people, the greatest threat to them is that message getting out, the message of freedom. Where do you see everybody unanimously agreeing on these topics? Television, radio, newspapers and magazines. We know who owns all them. Here, and here. Well, we know who gets suppressed and who gets artificially lifted. We know which message is algorithmically tailored to hit your eyes and ears. The podcast charts, all the advertising agencies, all the people that give the corporate message, the mainstream message, they're making money on advertisements, sponsorships. They're getting paid because they're regurgitating the message that keeps them in control. So when you really think about how pervasive this message really is, all you got to do is go out into society. And you'll find that the vast majority of people that you meet don't buy it. It's just that we're in such an emotionally manipulated, high information flow environment that they can make you believe the opposite of what you know to be true in the real world. So, New York State could be switched, and so could the state of Michigan. And so could any state. Because what they've done is so egregious and so authoritarian that it's not just, hey, I disagree with this, it's bad, whatever. It's like they don't let you see an aging family member before they die because the air is poison. And people are like, okay. The very fabric of society, the very essence of life is what is at threat. People think it's like, oh, it's about women's rights. It's about your right to identify as whoever you want to identify. I understand for a small group of people, this might be the only thing that matters to them, the most important thing. But the vast majority of people, I think including them, would be surprised at how pervasive the rest of this stuff actually is. Where what I'm talking about, a smaller, less powerful, less authoritarian, centrally controlled, big, fat, bloated government structure would solve a lot of their problems. If you wanted to go to a school where you could be a cat and they would teach you that you could slice and dice your Pen 15 and lop off your bags and you could be whatever you want, there would be a private school that would allow that. And that's what you would have the right to go and do. Take the money that you don't squander on property taxes and go buy yourself a ticket to the blue-haired school of worshiping the rainbow flag. and go be a cat. And what people would find is that that school will go out of business real quick. The only reason that it is enabled to grow, exist, and flourish is because it is anointed in the same way that all of the rest of these corrupt institutions are anointed by the people that only have one interest, which is maintaining your weakness, your inability to control your own life, inability to protect yourself, inability to prosper, inability to create your own wealth, inability to maintain your own health, inability to preserve your own resources, and inability to develop and generate equity and then thrive. So, people that want less centralized authority, less top-down control, less big government, it's the answer to all things. I believe that the vast majority of progressive leftist people are controlled by social issues and social issues alone. It's the only thing they care about because it's emotionally driven. It's not based in the fundamental building blocks of a free life. People don't understand that if you take care of these things, the social issues will resolve themselves. Making the minimum wage $15 an hour federally isn't going to get you $15 an hour. It's going to get you $0 an hour. But we have an uninformed population that doesn't understand the basic fundamentals of finance. They don't understand the basic components of how society actually works, not just how they tell you it works. If you make the federal minimum wage $15 an hour, a company that can't generate $15 an hour from your work goes out of business. You have no job now. And these are the same things that people get sold on the dream. Oh, you should make $1,000 an hour. The government should not be in control of how much money you make, what medicines you have to take, what schools you have to go to, what you learn or do not learn. These things could be controlled by the people, by an engaged population of intelligent, free people that are willing to accept the repercussions and potential threats and danger of a free society. There are a million things that could kill a person that you're allowed to legally possess. There's danger at every corner. No matter how far you advance society, we are in the jungle. There's just no other way around it. You could hit someone with a car. You could hit someone with a wrench. You could hit someone with a hammer. You could push someone off a ledge. You could put poison in their food. You could cut them. You could do any number of things. And where there's a will, there's a way, especially in cases of evil and darkness. So to think that if you remove all the knives in the world, that nobody will be cut, they'll use an axe. If you take away all the axes, they'll use a hammer. If they take away all the hammers, they'll use a shovel. If you take away all the shovels, they'll use a car. It doesn't matter. People are resourceful. That's why we have an advanced society. You can't protect everybody. There's this quote by Al Franken. I don't really care much for Al Franken, but he says it's easier to wear slippers than carpet the whole world. So what does that mean? It means that each person has to take the necessary precautions to protect and insulate themselves from the threats of the outside world. That's it. A better society would consist of people with more independently maintained resources, more wealth, more freedom, and more control over their life and the life of their family. So, with that being the case, you see two candidates. Let's be very specific, like Dr. Oz and Fetterbean. You have a person that has literally said for years that he's against fracking. Will get on this stage and say, I'm for fracking. I support fracking. I've always supported fracking. When there's videos of him 4 years ago saying, I don't support fracking. The con is on. They will gaslight you to your face. In Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, who was largely responsible for a variety of things that happened where people perished as a result of policies in nursing homes in Michigan, and some of the most egregious policies that stunted kids' ability to learn in school, developmentally, and then for you, your ability to move and operate your life, to where the extent was you couldn't buy a can of paint in Michigan. That was the one that really just blew my mind. I did so much home improvement while we were locked down. It was a big boom for my home life. It would have twisted my bag, and I would have been on the first U-Haul out of Michigan if they told me I can't buy a can of paint because there's poison in the air. But these are the people that they want you to reelect again. They want you to choose your own subservience. And these mindless NPCs, especially these young people that are easily emotionally manipulated and want to secure the bag of fame and temporary influence only while useful until they are regurgitated and spit out, will mindlessly regurgitate the establishment line so that they can achieve that level of authority as well. These 17-year-old TikTok kids that are talking about how you need to go and vote for Fetterbean because Dr. Oz is this or Dr. Oz is that. These kids never paid a tax dollar in their life. They don't even understand the error in their own ways. The rest of them, limousine libs, people that have high-paying jobs that aren't affected by these things, that live in rural areas, that have a house already and a good job already, and they're not worried about you. They know that they can jump on the emotional manipulation train and convince young women that the most virtuous thing that you can do is clap the next life that you create. You know, so you can work 9 to 5 in a corporate job, you know, for your career and stuff. And then they take those exact same people that are bought and paid for and they make them celebrities. And then those celebrities regurgitate those exact same messages through the social platforms, on the news shows. They prop them up and they give them fame, fortune, a temporary mouthpiece until they're chewed up, spit out, and no longer of value. They did that with Britney Spears. They did that with Madonna. They fill these people up with pills, with money. They rot their brain from the inside out. They sell their soul, and they chew them up and spit them out when they're no longer useful to the narrative. And if they dare go back against it and fight it, they delete their career. They delete any existence of them ever having any authority, and they find the next shiny object to fill their spot. Yet despite all of this, despite this clear and obvious pipeline, the next generation of people willing to sell themselves out for whatever gets stuffed down their throat, they're lining up, ready to go. You got these Instagram accounts like Midas Touch, for example, the most embarrassing account imaginable. And all of these people that are so desperate to be accepted, so desperate for attention, so desperate to be on the winning team, to get the attention and the love that they probably never got in their normal life, that they will mindlessly regurgitate whatever they have to get that temporary power, authority, and secure that bag, even if it's at their own demise. Whether they understand it or not remains to be seen. But if you're going to be a distribution point of a message that you don't understand, you're just as guilty in my book. If you're going to be out there talking about it, you better know what the hell you're talking about. Because influence is real, and these people are getting on a pedestal. Do you understand? I think all of you understand. Any person that's followed me from the beginning, and I'm just one person, as the people that follow this account and the numbers that appear on this account increase, I feel even more responsibility to make sure that I don't say something that I don't truly believe, even though I never did that from the jump. Because I understand how fragile a reputation is. Because when your reputation, because you have to build a reputation over a lifetime and it can be destroyed in a moment. These people are not subjected to that same restriction. They don't need to worry about their reputation because they get artificially inflated by the algorithms. They get artificially inflated and elevated to a next level by the advertisers that are bought and paid for, that are regurgitating that line, that know that they're regurgitating the line. They have no allegiance to the people because there's another round of young, impressionable, emotionally manipulatable people that are willing to line up and tee up for it. Whereas on this side of things, the independent thinking side of things, the people that actually pay attention and care with way more altruism about their fellow man and woman, those people are very sharp and high and have extremely high discernment because they understand that in order to get over to this side, get over to the theoretical dark side that they want to demonize and make you believe is the bad side of things. You know how many internal arguments you have to have with yourself to get over to this side, to go against your favorite celebrity, your favorite sports team, your favorite musician, everybody at the concert that yells F Donnie T. To go against that, to go against every daytime television host, to go against your aunt, your uncle, maybe your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your best friend from high school, your coworkers, your boss, every single person around you, every magazine, every television show, every movie you've ever watched in your entire life. For you to go on the opposite side of that argument is the most difficult decision that a person that becomes aware of reality has to make. And then you have a decision where you say, do I know the truth and keep it to myself as to not be taken out of the tribe? Or do I tell everybody to fuck themselves and I become a distribution point of the light? And not everybody has the ability to make that decision in the time frame that they want. But once you know, once you see the truth, once you understand the ramifications and how these policies execute out and what happens to people as a result, there's no turning back. So if you have gone through that journey to get over here, the difficult path, most people don't start on the opposite of what everybody seems to believe. They have to get there by climbing a mountain, by climbing through shit to get there. So they've made this journey. Now they're going to take information from a source that's other than themselves because they had to take that journey to get there in the first place. They had to believe it themselves. They had to independently research it. They had to talk about it. They had to debate about it. They had to have everybody tell them how stupid they are. And then they got there. And then they're like, wait a second, who sees this? Then they see an account like this or other accounts online. And they're like, if this person says one thing that makes me feel like they're not on my side, that they don't have the best intent, that they're not going all in, full throttle, pedal to the floor for the truth, fuck that person, I'm out next. Because I'm not going to sit here and be manipulated like everybody else is. So somebody like myself or somebody on this side of it has a very fragile line to follow. Because the amount of time that it takes for you to get here is far more treacherous and lengthy than it takes for somebody else to find one of these mainstream leftist political accounts that gets artificially inflated because they regurgitate the mainline narrative that keeps the people in power in control. So it's like you have to work harder to be visible here. And your opinion is much more your bullshit meter is much more tuned because you understand the negative effects if you don't have it tuned. So, when it comes to these selections, you have to understand the long game. I am not going to go through my entire life as a victim and believe that I'm going to complain about every problem that's out there in the world and I'm not going to do something to try to fix it. Because I didn't do that initially. When I first made my first video, that was 10 years deep into caring about it, which is what all of you care about. Which is why you're spending your precious time listening to and consuming this piece of content at this very moment when you could do any other thing. You care. And you understand that if you don't do it, who will? So it's like, I paid attention, I cared a lot about it, and one day the marketplace said, here, do this for us, and if you keep showing up, we will give you the resources to continue doing it. And I take that responsibility not lightly at all. Every day, I try to get better at this. I invest into this. I invest my time and my mental energy into it. I make financially ill decisions to pursue this over other things that would be more profitable because I believe in the mission. I believe in the long game. I believe in the purpose of it all, much like I think each one of you do. Because if we all don't contribute in our own little way, this will be allowed to continue forever. And our looking the other direction at this very crucial and important moment in world history will be scrutinized by future generations as they will one day realize the cowardice in our avoidance of doing the hard work when it needed to be done. And the reason that we have such reverence, at least most of us do, for people that fought in the world wars, founded our nation, took all these risks, is because they did it for us. They did it so that we would have the ability to be free. So are we going to sit here and say, well, New York can't be Republican? We can't do that. It's too big. Or will we say, there's no good reason why America should win the Revolutionary War? We're outgunned, we're outmanned, we're out-resourced. We're going against the biggest world power. And if they win, we will be tortured and destroyed. Yet despite that, they did it anyways. I've said it a bunch of times, but every great person in history, every person of great significance that I've ever seen has started out as a seemingly insignificant, average, everyday Joe that grew up not with means or influence or power, but nothing more than the will and the backbone to decide to be great. Every person started out as an average, everyday Joe that decided to be great. Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, Martin Luther King Jr., Harriet Tubman. The list is endless. They decided to be great. Abraham Lincoln grew up poor. So many people, including the people who have prospered today and done great things, many of them grew up with nothing. But what they did not do is believe that their circumstances at a temporary moment in time would dictate their ability to influence great things in the future. So with that being said, the question is do you believe in yourself? Do you believe in humanity? Do you believe that the universe will rise the road to meet you when you're traveling up the right hill? Because at all points in life, for all people who have achieved great influence, I think they would unanimously agree that that's just how it goes sometimes. And all I can give is the example of myself. I cared about politics and the country and bettering myself and all of these things and wanted to be a person of influence and a thought leader for many years. Didn't know how, didn't know when, didn't know why, didn't know what it would be, but just cared a lot. And then one day, the universe, aka you, decided, I'll give this person a little bit of my attention. And then I was like, all right, let me see if I can earn more. And you, like me, have the capacity to do the same and be great in your own way. It may not look like this. It could look like any number or any variety of things, but we all have a tremendous gift to give the world if we would only have the balls to share it and believe in it. So in this very unique moment in time, where I believe the individual has more power and more influence than at any point in human history, more ability to distribute knowledge and goodness than at any point in human history. The question is what will you do at this time? What will you stand for? What will you believe in? What type of information will you research? And more importantly, what will you hear yourself say to others and to yourself? Because everybody that did great things started out as an average Joe that decided to be great. That's just the truth of it. So now you have the ability to choose the lesser of two evils in a lot of cases, which is a small step towards the right direction, towards righting the ship. You have to try to figure out how to get the senators in the states that really matter. Georgia, Arizona, Pennsylvania. Crucial. You have to try to get the governors in the states that will matter. I can tell you this much. Florida will re-elect Ron DeSantis with certainty. And states like New York, the governorship there. If Michigan, New York State, Arizona, if these states were to switch and you'd had a person like Carrie Lake in a position of prominence for 4 years, you had a person like Lee Zeldin leading the state of New York, our most populous state. You had Ron DeSantis leading the charge in Florida, as he has already done. Not without fault, but certainly better than anybody else would be. Think about how much different the world would be if the people that were on TV, for everybody, the lemmings, the people that don't pay attention, if the person that they saw, the kids, the youth, they saw people like Carrie Lake. Imagine if a girl saw somebody like Carrie Lake leading a state like Arizona versus a person like Gretchen Whitmer. Think about the influence that would have over the future generations of people in that state, the young women of the world. Think about all the girls in sports that have fought so hard to win titles, opportunities, and scholarships in things like swimming, running, track and field, to have their dreams and their careers and their livelihoods stolen away from them for some woke distraction agenda under this guise of rights, when there's a clear biological difference between these people. It's like, who will stand up for the women? Gun rights are women's rights. How is a woman 9 times out of 10 going to defeat an able-bodied and capable man in hand-to-hand combat? The vast majority of times they won't. Gun rights are women's rights. Sports, separated by gender, protect women. Who will lead for them? The economic prosperity of people is their ticket to not being subjected to the wants and will of the elitists, of the globalists. Your ability to run your own independent business, your own independent restaurant, your ability to create your own economic prosperity is such a basic, fundamental building block of wealth for any person, because whether people like it or not, the great equalizer in terms of your ability to physically stay safe is a firearm for women, for people that are not of able body, for elderly people, for people with lots of children, people in rural areas. It is the equalizer. For people of all walks of life, whether you be a man, a woman, a they, a them, a zim, a zer, wheelchair, not wheelchair, blind, deaf, whatever it is, the great equalizer economically is the free market. Because the way that the free market works is that the best product, the best service wins. Absolutely zero people, or maybe 0.001% of people, care about the person, the superficialities of a person that's on the other end of the transaction, as long as it improves their quality of life. It blew my mind during all the lockdowns when apps like Uber Eats would say, order food from these businesses. These are black-owned businesses. And it's like, I never one time in my entire life, and it has nothing to do with my skin, thought about what the race was of the person that owned the restaurant I was buying food from. Never cared, never thought about it, could not have cared less. And I would wager that nobody in the marketplace cares either. Because we don't think about things like that. We don't think about race like that. We don't think about gender like that. Free people think about what will make my life better, and that's it. The free market says that I am willing to part with this $20 bill because I believe that what you will give me in return is worth more than this paper, worth more than I can buy with it of something else. It knows no gender, no age, no background, no sexual orientation, no color, no handicap. None of that matters to a person that's buying something. All they care about is whether or not it makes their life a better place. And they never did care about it until people started to weaponize that transaction and say, well, if you don't agree with me about this medicine, if you don't agree with me with this ideology, well, then I don't even want your business. I'm going to actively support people that suppress your right to do that. And it was only then that anybody was like, wait a second, I only want to support people that believe what I believe. It's not about the gender. It's not about the age, not about the race. It's about the belief. Do you believe in freedom? Do you believe in family? Do you love America? Do you believe that I am of equal value as the next person, even if I believe something that's different than you? Now we have to think about that, something that we never thought about before. They're injecting something into the equation that didn't exist, which is the beauty of the free market to begin with, which is why capitalism is such an amazing thing, which is why the government getting out of the way and letting capitalism do its thing is the great equalizer for economic prosperity around the world. If you work hard, if you provide a quality product and service that people love and choose to part with their hard-earned dollars in order to obtain, you too can prosper. Your sum of earnings can be calculated by the quantity of people that you help or the amount of help that you give each person. So You really want to help the youth of America? Support homeschools, private schooling, charter schools. Localized education based on things that people would need to know in that area. Trade schools, not encouraging every kid to go to college, certainly not to obtain loans. By leveling out the playing field in the college marketplace, the cost of college would go down and the quality would go back up because not so many people would go anymore. They would be forced to compete for your dollars. If you were to prioritize America first, meaning American citizens first, not America only, but America first, Americans first, we would stop needlessly squandering billions and billions of dollars of money overseas, and that money could be used on maintaining the freedom, independence, and self-preservation of the people in our own country. If we were to protect our borders and protect our veterans, more people would be willing to serve and would be happy to do so. If we treated them with reverence and respect, the ones that did choose to be willing to risk and make the ultimate sacrifice to serve in the armed forces or as a first responder, if we were to treat those people as the heroes that they are, they would do a better job. But if you fire them because a person that swims on the Coast Guard and rescues human beings didn't get the medicine that you prefer, that could potentially cost them their life, you will get a whole lot less of them. So we are witnessing the systematic dismantling of basic society, of economic prosperity, of independent freedom and self-preservation. They are destroying independence of thought. They are destroying your body from the inside out through the foods. They're filling your mind and your brain with these poisonous medications, needless procedures. They're glorifying vanity-based surgeries, fame, fortune, needless widgets, degeneracy, anxiety, sadness, alcohol, and consumption. And they're poisoning you through high fructose corn syrup, seed oils, processed foods, processed grains, needless stress, air and water pollution, poor recycling practices, and any number of other social contagions that separate people from themselves, their family members, their own humanity, and nature. So, what does this all mean as it relates to the midterms? What it means is the simplest way to change the world is to change yourself. Improve your own health, your own knowledge, your own prosperity, your financial position, your social circle, the people you surround yourself with, the information you consume, and the education you possess. Once you've achieved that, get your credit score right, get your money right, get your business right, get your passive cash flow right, get your assets right, get your debt eliminated, get your food cleaner and fresher, understand that an unhurried sense of time is in itself a form of wealth. One of my favorite quotes of all time. Get more sunlight, take more walks, and squeeze the juice out of life. Remove the toxic people and information from your brain, from your eyes, from your ears, and educate yourself on how to prosper more, how to make more money, how to help more people, how to benefit society for the better, your family, future generations, etc. Then, once you've satisfied those needs and helped yourself, how can you contribute to the greater good? How can you be a truth distributor? How can you be a conduit of information and knowledge? How can you help other people see the world like you do? The most simple way is to be an example. Be healthier, do healthier things. When someone says go to the bar, say let's go for a walk. When someone says let's go to the club, say let's go for a kayak, for a ski, for a hike, whatever. If somebody wants to watch Housewives, maybe watch a documentary. You get the idea. Consume your information from a variety of different sources and share those sources. Support and follow creators online, independent creators that are not controlled by these same systems that oppress everybody else. Even out the playing field. Change what you consume. Then, educate yourself about all of these races, the senators, the local political people, the local political positions, the school boards, the mayors, the DAs, the district attorneys, the sheriffs in your area, and know the issues. Be a person that distributes that knowledge to others. Be a distribution point of knowledge. Seek information from sources that you don't know. Validate the information one way or the other. Maybe you'll agree with them, maybe you won't. But at least you'll have the perspective of what other people are consuming. And then share your findings and collaborate with others, especially people that encourage you to be a better version of yourself. The sad reality of getting older, more wise, more mature, is that you have to make the tough decision of eliminating people from your life that don't challenge you to be better. Can be lonely at times, but often ends up being the best move that you've ever made. When we do this, we realize that a lot of people are dead weight. A lot of people are there for a season or a reason, but are not there for the right reasons. If we do all of these things, the decision in these particular midterms just represents an individual change and an individual inflection point, a pivot point, a turning point in the direction of the nation and our own development. Where if I know that my business is a little bit more protected or insulated against some future biomedical control situation, I might be a little bit more willing to invest in more resources. I might hire more people. I might buy more tools. I might expand my location. I might increase the quality and depth of my offerings. I may be willing to invest in growing my business, which is ultimately growing my own prosperity, my ability to prosper. I'll hire more people. I'll bring more hardworking individuals into my life, and I'll help them prosper as well. If I feel that my family and children are protected from being indoctrinated into these ideologies that I don't like, I won't feel the need to move. I won't need to have my eye hawk-eyeing every single thing that comes across their life at every moment. I can work harder at myself, my life, enjoying it, growing my business and my prosperity, and building the legacy. So it's like all of these things are solved downstream from changing yourself, participating in this particular moment, and then continuing along that line. If you elect a person like Carrie Lake, for example, over Katie Hobbs, if you elect a person like Lee Zeldin, for example, over Kathy Hochul, if you elect a person like Ron DeSantis over Charlie Crist, the impact that has and the influence that it has on people will start to permeate. They'll start to realize that good policies create good outcomes, that the right ideas and freedom are popular. If the person that's talking on the 9 o'clock news is a person that believes with what you believe and believes in your freedom and follows along with your ideologies, though maybe not perfectly aligned with whatever it is that you believe, it's one small step in the direction of the world being changed in a way that makes sense to you. So yeah, you don't have to agree with everything that Dr. Oz says. You just have to agree that he's better than Federblob. You don't have to agree with everything that Carrie Lake says. You just have to agree that she's better than Katie Hobbs. You don't have to agree with everything Blake Masters says and does, but that he's better than the other guy. Same goes for Lee Zeldin. Same goes for DeSantis. Same goes for whomever is the future president. And one step at a time, you start to chip away at the highest priority items first, change the direction, change the momentum, encourage people to think differently, do all of those things that I just mentioned about how you can change your own life, and then other people will start to take note as a result of the changes that you're making and society is making around us. The reason that things are deteriorating is because we've got decades of not caring, people not paying attention, people not getting involved, people being blindly led by not having to care. In the 90s and the early 2000s, everybody was bought out. In the 90s, $100,000 a year salary was enough for a 2-car garage, a wife that stayed home, and a single person earning household with 2 kids. You could work your way through college. It meant something. And generally speaking, your dollar went a lot further. In 2001, or in 1999, the 2000, the stock market was booming until it ultimately crashed in the dot-com boom. And then immediately, they shifted into cheap money. And everybody with a pulse was able to obtain a mortgage to buy a house, which they used as an instrument of high wealth building from 2000 to 2008. A lot of people made a lick in that time frame. By 2008, the market crashed. Some people got out, some people didn't. The real estate market tanked. And then all the jobs that would have gone to people that were graduating from college with these inflated debts, well, all those people got screwed. And then all those people, with their degrees or not, worked full-time jobs at an entry-level salary, and all of the older people with a little bit more experience were able to take all of those jobs, leaving all those people saddled with debt and all of them unable to buy homes. During Obama, from 2008 to 2016, interest rates were artificially low, which allowed people that were able to obtain credit and obtain money to obtain money at a rapid clip. You could get a mortgage again. The housing market was depressed. You could buy back into all these assets that got liquidated. The stock market was in the garbage can, and everybody was back on the saddle. And then from 2008 to 2016, everybody crushed. And then the next in line to now continue to enact the agenda was Hill Dog. But some people saw the underlying bad things coming. And as a result, out of nowhere, a universally liked billionaire was able to seemingly come out of nowhere and interrupt their plans. So they needed a way out. So they demonized him, painted him as every name under the book for 4 years, looking for any and every opportunity to destroy him and re-enable power. They prepped for it, maybe they didn't. I guess you can't even say that. But then just like that, this mysterious thing comes out of nowhere, and they lock the machine into gear, and they used it to completely flip the table and destroy everything by design. Then they install a career puppet that's not mentally capable of doing the job to be a useless mouthpiece. They gave him and his family unfettered access to be as corrupt financially as they wanted. And they're going to use them until no longer useful. Just like they do everybody else. And then one day will come where Joe is no longer needed and he will be discarded. Yet, there is only one remaining threat to this plan, as they have all of the distribution points of information secured and locked up. It is the last hope of freedom perhaps the world will ever know. The last and final frontier, the frontier of the mind. If they can steal your thoughts, there is nothing left to steal. If they can control how you see the world, all the rest of it will be on autopilot with no issues. So there's the last conquest. Make you think that freedom is bad. Make you think that your neighbor is evil, is out to get you. Make you think that your skin color or your situation dictates your ability to succeed in life, and that everybody is out to get you. Pit you against one another to cease any semblance of unity, which is a threat to your control. And convince the people that they have no say, and if they dare have a say, they will be destroyed. But what they didn't see coming was a mass awakening. And the stewards of that awakening, the stewards of that shift in how things are done, is in our hands and our hands alone, in my opinion. So, how do you do it? Through all the ways that I had just mentioned. Start with yourself, get involved in these things, be a distributor of the truth. And build up the tolerance, both mentally and physically, to resist sickness of the physical body and of the mind. And one of the most, I think, important defense mechanisms of the independent thinker is their ability to not be fazed by the easily manipulated, often dark and sad thoughts of somebody that is not as far along in the journey as they are. Because these people often manifest themselves in the comments on these posts. More often than not on TikTok than anywhere else. Even throughout this speech, I see people that would consider themselves probably to be adults grown men and women chirping in the comments after 90 minutes of a really long thought out message that I've been putting my whole heart into. And all they can think about and say is Bad Orange Man, Donnie Shill, or whatever they feel is enough for them to stay on the alleged and supposed winning team, because they are so desperate to be on the winning team. They're so desperate to be in the tribe that they believe is winning, that they will agree with things that are even against their own interests, whether they understand them or not. And instead of just keeping it to themselves and internalizing it, or trying to change somebody else's mind, or coming up with any articulate argument to the opposite, they'll just revert to the lowest common denominator and spew out whatever trash comes to their mind, because they haven't gotten there yet, and they haven't developed enough to see the error in their ways, in my opinion. Some people will probably say the same about me, but that's why humanity and the human experience is a beautiful thing, because we can disagree. So building up a tolerance and a resistance to that type of groupthink is a journey that they are on just like us, because at the end of the day, these are our brothers and sisters in our one human family, whether we like it or not. So I hope nothing but the best for them. And I do believe that when the dust settles at the end of this journey, I do believe that the message of freedom, independence, free thought, discernment, not tribalism, medical freedom, self-preservation, self-protection, freedom of speech, right to bear arms, love of country, financial independence, better mental and physical health. I think all of those things will shake out at the end of it all. And it will seem, and they will see how obvious it has been all along. So that is my message. And that, in 1 hour and 37 minutes, is why I think it's so important that people understand the gravity of this moment. And your little old vote for your little old senator race, or your governorship, or your House seat, or whatever else. So, I hope that this was helpful. I certainly hope that you can see, and I know that you can see, how seriously I take this, much like how serious you take this, because you have made it to the end of this conversation, and I hope that it provided you some value. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for your precious time. I really appreciate it. I am so incredibly thankful that that I have the opportunity to reach all of you. I'm so thankful that I have the ability to speak with all of you in this forum. It brings me a tremendous amount of pleasure to be able to do so, and I'm thankful that that you guys listen and share, and that this is what I'm able to do with my time, especially considering how important I believe that it is to the world. So, thank you again for your precious time. That's all for me tonight. an hour and 40 minutes. That was a good rip right there. I really appreciate you all so much. I'm sorry that I didn't read the comments. I didn't want to get distracted from the primary message. But I do appreciate you guys being here, and I will make sure that I interact some more. I'm going to be going live as much as I possibly can over the course of the next couple weeks, specifically because I think these midterms are very important. So thanks everybody that have been tuning in, and thank you for your comments. I hope that you guys had some good conversations in the chat, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Now, I saw somebody had sent in a Venmo for like $50, so thank you so much to whoever did that. I really appreciate it. I want to thank everybody that buys the merch on bobbysauce.com. I really appreciate all of the contributions. It really makes the channel possible, so thank you so much for doing that. Thank you to everybody that bought the badges on Instagram. I appreciate that. Thank you to JSI Verts, Jeff Roche, Janet Rhodes Harmon, Camilla Melando, Redhead Bex 44, Olivia, and Marcin Statura 21. Thanks to whoever sent the Venmo. And thank you to the people that joined the subscribership on Instagram. I really appreciate that so much. Like I said, I'm going to do the best I can to interact with that as much as I possibly can. So thank you guys so much for your time and attention. I really appreciate it. I will see you tomorrow. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, thanks for being here. Instagram, appreciate you so much. I will see you tomorrow. TikTok, thanks so much. Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, thanks for being here. Stay real. Go America.